So guys, if I were to identify the biggest issue in Canadian immigration as on date in this particular year, that would definitely be express entry. The draws in express entry, including the category draws and the Canadian experience class draws, have been driving people crazy, especially with the high cutoff scores, the high CRS scores. And the unfortunate part is that people don't really know when to expect which draw, what kind of a cutoff, and people are just speculating all the way. So guys, we were recently at the National Conference of Immigration Consultants, NCIC, and there IRCC did talk about how they plan their landing numbers and what actually drives the number in the back end. In this video today, we will talk about the issues, the underlying issues in the express entry system, the way IRCC plans its landings of permanent residents who are coming to Canada, and how that is linked to the draws that are coming today. If the draw is going higher or lower, and how are they planning the intake, the capacity size. We will talk about the science behind it. If you are interested in moving to Canada, if you're looking for a permanent residence in the coming years, then you should be watching this video up until the end. My name is Sahil. Guys, welcome back once again. My name is Sahil and I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant and I practice here in Ontario. My office is here. If you have to get in touch with me, my number is on the screen and the details are there in the description box. More than happy to speak with you. Before we proceed any further, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon because we talk a lot about Canadian immigration. And if you are an aspirant of moving to Canada, this is the channel that you must be subscribed to all the time. So guys, we are discussing express entry, and the biggest issue with people inside Canada, outside Canada, is why IRCC taking out draws at such a reduced frequency. Why are the draw sizes so low, and why are the CRS points still hitting through the roof? These are the particular questions which people always have, because if IRCC were to take out smooth draws regularly every 15 days and start holding draws with higher numbers, then I think literally everybody around the globe would be able to come to Canada. But unfortunately, IRCC gives out no pre-prepped schedule of their draws. The CRS cutoffs are always unplanned, people don't really know, and even the categories are all over the place. So let's just talk about what's happening behind the curtains. We were at the conference, the National Conference of Immigration Consultants, NCIC, in 2025 at Lake Louise this year, and IRCC was there presenting on their landings and how they are bringing in permanent residents around the globe, what are their targets, and they did spill out a couple of beans here and there, although they never told us when can you expect a CC draw, what kind of numbers, what is the pre-planning. But yes, if you try to connect the dots like I will in front of you today, you will be able to understand what exactly is going behind the curtains. Now guys, overall, just a quick backgrounder. Canada does declare an immigration levels plan every year in the month of September to November, every year around that, and they do give a 3-year plan out. Ever since they've been doing that, the last year plan of 2025 till 2027 actually was a biggest drop, ever since IRCC started inviting people under the liberal governance. They've been raising numbers all those years, but this was the first time when they decided to bring down the numbers. Now, just to put in context, 2024, you were expecting around 485,000 people. There was a 20% drop, and in the year 2025, there are about 395,000 people who will be brought into Canada. Now, 395,000 people is not just permanent residents through express entry. It is PR through every program that exists, including family sponsorships. You have refugees, you have economic pilot programs, you have express entry, you have PNPs, any other program that IRCC has to offer. Important thing to note is, whenever there is one draw in express entry, it does not mean that is one-to-one correspondence to the 395,000. No. One draw in express entry can bring in more family members, and it is the overall quota of 395. So say for example, there is a family of 4 in one express entry draw, that is one principal applicant, then that gets reduced from 395,000. So 4 people gets reduced from that. On an average, we have seen that there are about 2.8 people landing in one express entry draw, and there is approximately 20% of hit rate. So there are, say for example, 100 invitations that happen. Out of that, only 80 people generally land in Canada, and within those 80 people, approximately 2.83 people come to Canada in the coming years, and that landing is a very important number. What IRCC has talked about in terms of number is that if it's an in Canada draw, say if it's an applicant who's inside Canada, that applicant will land between 6 to 9 months, depending upon whether the person goes outside, comes back, all of that. So 6 to 9 months is for an applicant who's inside Canada, and 9 to 16 months is an average processing time for a permanent resident to land in Canada. So say for example, IRCC takes about 6 to 9 months to process express entry. The person will take additional, say 7 odd months to come here. So overall, outside Canada people land between 9 to 6 months. Inside Canada, 6 to 9 months. Now this number is very important. Please hold on to it as I will explain as to why IRCC has not been holding draws in the first half of 2025. It is important to know that IRCC, say for example in 2024, took out draws. Now looking at the 6 to 9 months and 9 to 6 months, whosoever got invited in the previous year still has time to land in this year, or probably would be landing, and most of the outside Canada applicants would be landing in this year. This means that all the draws that happened starting July 2024 up until now, these people are typically going to land in this particular year. So the draws that you saw last year, all the CEC draws, are all hitting landing numbers of this year. Now, since IRCC has been delayed in processing and IRCC is still trying to bring in people, all the draws that happen usually up until June are people who will be landing in the year 2025. So that's why the quota, so typically 395,000 quota is already filled up almost to the brim, including people from last year and this year. Starting July, as we have seen historically, we have seen that starting July, IRCC would start holding regular draws and large size draws, which is July 2025, because people being invited in July onwards will be going into the target numbers of 2026, which is approximately 365,000 to go. I think 385 or 365,000. So till today, whatever numbers you are seeing, landings happening in 2025 beyond June or July. There's no exact cutoff that IRCC gave, but there was a bit of it, like they mentioned that July 2024. So assuming July 2025 onwards, whatever draws happen would ideally be landing in 2026, barring couple of CEC draws, francophone, because francophones are getting processed within 20-30 days. So not everybody will land in the following year, but they do have those quotas here and there. Also, there is a balancing act as well. Last year, they held draws assuming a quota of 485,000 and also assuming that the numbers would go higher. Suddenly, they got struck with a 20% reduction in the quota, which is 395. So they're trying to balance off bringing 495 tune sort of invited people, trying to fit them into 395,000 worth of a quota. So there is a spillover of inventory, which can probably spill over to 2026 as well. As per IRCC's numbers, in 2023 and the end of 2023 and the first half of 2024, they had to take out 555,500 draws in order to land close to 483,000 people in 2024. So there's almost a 20% drop there as well. Like they had to invite, or they need to take 555,500 decisions precisely. It's not just draws, because there's humanitarian conditions, there's refugees, and then there's family sponsorship as well. So all those decisions, so like 555,000 people were decided upon to bring 483,000 people in 2024. Now, because they have to only bring 395,000 this year, I'm assuming they would have to take approximately 480,000 worth of decisions, or a little lesser than that, in 2025 and 2024, the balance half of 2024, to bring in that sort of number here. And then people who will be invited here July onwards in 2025 will be not all of them, but most of them will be landed in 2026. So I hope that gives you a sense of things, that the second half of a year accounts for the next year's quota. Okay, and if the next year's quota gets decided in November, that can throw the balance off. That's the biggest issue at the moment. Now, this particularly also points towards francophone. Now, I hope you understood the science behind why has there been delay and why the first half of 2025 has been very, very slow. That's because they're trying to balance off how many people will be landing. I'm assuming, speculating that July onwards, IRCC will start holding regular sized draws, which could include other categories, which could include, the general draws if there are, which could include STEM categories, which could include, obviously, if the people are lucky, you might get to see a transport draw as well, which although is not there mentioned by IRCC, but still the category does exist, right? So all of those draws should start happening this, but IRCC did talk about Francophone specifically, and that was also highlighted in the mandate letter that was issued recently towards the new immigration minister as well, that Francophone is now going to be almost 20% of the quotas. Now, it's important to note that express entry quota or people through Canadian experience class in Canada and all of that is sitting at approximately 83,000 to be, between 80 and 85,000. And the quota of other economic programs and all is sitting at about 45,000. So ballpark, you can take about 125,000. Now, going forward, Francophone is going to be a major deciding factor, at least for the next year as well, because that's a recommendation by the standing committee on the Francophone language. People trying to, or communities trying to build up outside of Quebec. So French speaking communities outside of Quebec, that is also very important. So 20% worth of a quota approximately, although there is a notification of 12%, but the committee is aiming towards 20%, and we've already seen that draws in express entry as of today are gearing past 18,000 people. So yes, those people will be landing in Canada this particular year, and also Francophone draws are being processed, rounds are being processed fairly quicker. I believe the officers are not even looking at everything else, so that's going to happen. So overall, IRCC's express entry pool is sitting at almost 250,000 people as on date, the day that I'm making this video. And out of this, the Canadian experience class people, the total number of draws that have happened for CC people is sitting at only 9,750 ITAs having been invited so far. In fact, the May 13th quota that happened, the May 13th draw that happened was beyond anybody's expectations. 547, only 500 people invited. Guys, as of today, I think 547, because 600 points is the pinnacle. So you're talking about only top 10%. Top 10% people, if you want to reach in that particular zone, you would ideally need at least probably 2 years of Canadian experience, if not 1. You would have done a master's degree in Canada for sure. You would be somewhere below the age of 30. Mostly you would be unmarried, or you would be married. You would probably have a spouse in Canada. You would probably have a sibling in Canada, and also the best of IELTS score, probably French here and there as well. So that's like a profile, and obviously PhDs and beyond. That's what I'm talking about, just the bare minimum floor. That's the kind of profile that you're looking at. And obviously the Prime Minister recently said that you have to bring the best minds globally. Guys, my honest opinion as of today is that have faith in the system. Obviously French is the best way to go. Anybody who still thinks or is doubtful that French might just not be helpful, or people could evade that, for people who are sitting below 500, I'm just being loud and clear, you guys have to start learning French as of today. For anybody else, you have to look at adding points in the system somehow. If you want to add additional points in your express entry system, you're looking at approximately 50 points being added through overseas experience, which is working from home for a company that is located outside Canada, or you being outside Canada working for a Canadian company, or you going back home or any other country outside Canada, working there, getting paid properly, proper work experience, no issues here and there. That is the kind of thing that can add value. Second or third year of Canadian experience, well, third year would not be that much, but still second year of Canadian experience, get that last bit of 0.5 worth of an IELTS score, or even a 1 band higher, because every CLB 10 adds value. Adding French would definitely add value, and obviously going for an additional diploma degree or a master's degree, if you don't have, you could also do a remote degree from your back home. That could also add some value. So if you want to add points in your express entry, these are the couple of things which you should be trying. Overall, The times that are ongoing should not be staying forever, but yes, things are going to get competitive because PNP quotas have been slashed into half. The government has a mandate of squeezing in francophone speaking community within the in Canada draws. The overall numbers are not going to be increased, at least in the coming year. The Liberal government has been fairly clear in their wordings. They're not mincing it now. They're saying that the numbers of student visas will be capped to whatever they are at the moment. It could go a bit lower. The number of permanent residents is going to mostly stay flat for the next 2 years. If it stays flat, then the current conditions will continue. It is not going to get easier, in terms of the number of draws. It is already, you're already seeing at almost 390, so almost 400k people landing in Canada every year. So IRCC wants to keep it flat, and if they do, then the Canadian experience class draws should be running on an all-time high because everything else is biting into the targets. Guys, I hope you got to know in terms of permanent resident targets what's happening here. It has gotten more competitive, and for people who are not learning French, I think it's high time that you started learning French. Looking at your siblings here, Canadian experience class, second year, and work experience from back home, master's degree and all of that, that should probably be the way going forward. Not to forget, people who are getting admissions in master's degrees starting this year will be getting into the mainstream express entry applications next year, which will definitely make the Canadian experience class or the express entry pool even more competitive. So for anybody who's in India or Bangladesh or Pakistan thinking of coming to Canada on a 2-year diploma, guys, please rethink your strategy. Or PR might just not be the way that you want to look at. You might just want to look at a work permit for now. Everything else can be looked at in a more personalized, custom manner. We can definitely have a look at your profiles. We can assess them and give you more valuable inputs. For everybody else, I wish you all the best. You can just book an appointment. We would be more than happy to speak with you. And I really hope to see you soon in Canada. All the best.